Now, let's transition into the Islamic faith and the Muslim community and what they do regarding death, dying, and all that jazz. Okay? So, in the Muslim tradition, they believe that death was already set when you were born. It's Allah's choice. Allah is what they call God, remember. It's Allah's choice, so there's really no reason that you need to be sorrowful or mourn extravagantly. You can mourn your loss, but we came from Allah, and Allah's right is to claim us back. So, yeah, they just make that a pretty clear thing. When death is approaching in the Muslim culture, definitely there'll be lots of visitors, because they do want that sense of community. They want you to know that you're not alone, and they want to encourage you to proclaim your faith in Allah. They believe that when death arrives with your last breath, you should utter, it's called a shahada, and it's basically your proclamation that Allah is your everything. It's your faith in Allah. And they also believe that when you pass, it's best to do that at home, because then you're less likely to have things happen to your body and less challenges for interjection. That's just what they do. Okay. They also believe that when you pass, it is important to turn your head or your whole body, or at least your face, depending on where you are, toward Mecca. The Muslim people typically always know where Mecca is, and so they believe that that's important because that will help your soul transition, okay? If you die due to suicide in the Muslim culture, you may or may not be able to partake in certain sacred customs. They take suicide very seriously, and it's all at the imam. That's their priest's essentially name. It's at their discretion as far as what they're able to participate in and not. Okay. Once they are dead, only the immediate family can see the deceased person's face again. You will not be able to show the deceased person to their grandchild or their grandpa or anything like that. Nope, immediate family only. And they will take care to close the eyes and the mouth, but it is a very, very much a respect thing. They don't want anyone to remember them in that deceased state, so they will not cast their eyes upon them in that deceased state. Someone, again, will stay with the body until it is in the care of an undertaker. And there, again, is a ritual washing and cleansing of the body. And then they're going to be wrapped in some sheet or garment. They'll be covered with a cloth. The tricky part, the difference, I should say, between Judaism and Muslim is in this one, the washing and the draping must be done by someone of the same gender. To my knowledge, that's not the rule in Judaism, but in Muslim, it absolutely is. That's very important. The body is sacred. It's a vessel that belongs to God and Allah, so they take great care in how they prepare their body to go back to Allah. So the Muslim community also does not do embalming. They absolutely do not do cremation, and they will refuse post-mortem autopsies. Absolutely. Now, regarding organ donation, that's debated. There are some who are strongly for it and some that are strongly against it. The one debate that I saw in particular had to do with eyes, and that was one of the things that they were actually most accepting of donating was eyes, because then others can see Allah. And that was interesting to me. I wasn't expecting that. That was interesting. In the Muslim culture and tradition, they do have a service to remember the loved one. This loved one is typically present. There's typically a prayer, and there's normal customs. And all the customs, the order of service, all follows their laws. Sharaha is how their laws are pronounced. And it's slightly different depending on what your imad says. Okay. Typically no flowers. Again, no flowers. They don't want to cover up that the person is deceased. They don't want to do that. There also is a prohibition of black clothing. They don't do black clothing. It's part of life. This is something that Allah had planned from the very beginning, so you don't need to have any excessive signs. Excessive displays are strongly discouraged. So crying, for example, no. If you can't control your emotions, then you should not be in public, essentially is what it is. Women in particular do not attend burials. If you are pregnant, you can't go to the funeral or the burial because they believe that that might cause undue stress on the baby, or the baby might have some evil absorbed in them. They don't want to mess with that. So if you are attending a Muslim funeral, you will have your head covered out of respect. And as the body approaches the grave, when you're going to bury them, they pass the body. It's typically in a very plain coffin, not ordained or anything, and it's rather small. There'll be 2 lines of people on the way to the grave, and the body will pass on the shoulders. So everyone takes part of the burden of this person leaving. They're letting go with each pass of the hands. That's just what they do. And they will do that from the hearse or wherever the body was transported from all the way to the grave. That's what they do. And then after service, there is a wake, which is different. In Christianity, they'll have the wake before the service. In the Muslim culture, they'll do the wake after service. And it's basically a time for families to gather, be comforted, and tell stories. Okay? And then if it's your spouse that dies in the Muslim tradition, there'll be idea. And that's basically 3 days that bereaved women don't go out. They don't mix with society. And that's just following their spouse's death. They're trying to get their household in order. They're trying to organize things again so that they can take on their normal roles and responsibilities after 3 days. So it's interesting looking at the different religions, how they view death, what the procedures they take after death, and then even like how they support the families around it. There are things in the discovery of the different traditions that I really like about each of the different traditions.